Graham et al.'s 2019 ebook, K through 12 Blended Teaching, specifically Chapter 1, A Guide to Personalized Learning and Online Integration, defines blended learning as a teaching approach that combines online and in person instruction. This can look like students sitting in a traditional classroom setting on campus and completing instruction through Google Classroom or another LMS like Canvas or Blackboard. The primary goal is to enhance student learning, not simply to use technology. So, just because you're integrating one to one Chromebooks or iPads in the classroom doesn't mean it's automatically blended learning. It involves online learning as a part of the student learning experience. So there has to be some instruction happening through online means. Students get a certain level of autonomy over their learning. So while in the classroom, a teacher may do a guided discussion, when we incorporate blended learning, students are able to access their resources and assignments at their own time. Effective blended learning requires a broader skill set from teachers, so they have to have a certain level of digital literacy and instructional design knowledge to implement blended learning effectively. Some of the positives that I've noticed when implementing the blended learning model in my classroom included improved student learning, increased access and flexibility, and in my case, an increased cost efficiency. So specifically with student learning, I noticed that I was able to personalize my instruction. And really target each of my group of students. I taught ESL math, so I taught beginner level students, intermediate, advanced, high. And I was able to really differentiate those activities. For my advanced high students, I had them do a written assignment using Google Docs, while my beginner intermediate students did an escape room using Google Slides. I really enjoyed we use Google Classroom, so I really enjoyed the different components, and I found it easier to make sure that all those accommodations that my students needed were met. In our case, we were one to one with Chromebooks, so that cost of printing of PDFs, articles, whatever it may be, everything was able to be digitized. So that cost went down. Instead of having to print out 100 copies of a test, I used Google Forms. Our school we really saw um, our resources be allocated, which freed up money for field trips. Always fun. Some of the benefits of using the blended learning model that I've noticed include using data to drive my instruction, being able to hold more collaborative learning spaces for my students, and being able to try and test out innovative teaching strategies. I really like being able to get feedback from students, being able to get that data in real time, whether it's through using a Google Forms or um, things like Pear Deck and Google Slides, using that data to kind of see where I need to reteach, um, and having those lessons ready to go, ready to be uploaded, ready to be shared, really made it. Um, I was able to streamline that process of getting the next lesson out to my students, using spaces like Google Meet, even a Word doc when we started learning how to use that online collaborative learning space, Microsoft Teams, video chat, Microsoft Chat. Really able showing my students, one, the purpose of collaborating online, how to do it effectively, and how we can use what we discussed to complete our assignments, um, was really one of the benefits that I enjoyed the most. And then finally, learning about the different strategies that I could implement in my online classroom and being able to test them out and try them out, seeing what worked, what didn't. I taught the ESL students, my counterpart taught the pre-P students, and the third person on our team taught the regular SPED students. So really being able to see what strategies worked for who was a great way to fine tune our online learning environment. When we're looking at some of the challenges that may arise from incorporating the blended learning model, Graham et al. Give us the 6 P's of blended teaching. participation, pacing, personalization, place, personal interaction, and preparation. So while there are ways around these challenges, some teachers may still find it difficult to effectively incorporate this model when these arise. For example, participation. It Teachers may find it difficult to engage their students, for example, in a Microsoft Teams discussion. A lot of the time, in my experience, students don't want to turn on their camera, they don't want to turn on their mic, they may not know how to connect their sound or their microphone. They may not know how to turn it on. So that participation factor really can take a hit. Pacing in the classroom, teachers are able to monitor when students are struggling. They're able to stop the lesson, do a quick reteach. With online learning, while we can see what the student is struggling with, it may be a little more difficult to stop them from moving on to the next section. So pacing might be a little bit difficult to address. You have things like personalization. We only see what the students um, provide, so we're unable to have that real time. Those real time connections, like, oh, what's your favorite movie? What kind of music do you like? I know I try to incorporate a lot of my students' interest in my lessons to get that engagement, and we may lose some of that if not done properly with online learning. Um, Another thing, like preparation. So if teachers don't have the know-how or that digital literacy to effectively incorporate this model, they may struggle. For example, I created Google Forms as quiz. I use Google Forms as quizzes, as formative assessments, and I had a discussion with another teacher, and she was like, "Google Form, like, how do you use that? Google Forms? I had no idea. I didn't even think about it that way." So while some of us may find it a little easier, others who don't have those skills may find that the prep time to set up their online learning environment may take them twice as long as the traditional method would. In regards to educational technology, I think blended learning is closely intertwined with it. When you talk about the interactive content, you may include, again, going back to Google Classroom, you're able to create sites, you're able to upload videos, you're able to provide links to online resources. All there's different apps. Our district has a hub of digital apps that the students and teachers have access to. The collaborative tools you may use, you can use Google Meets. We also use Microsoft. You can send messages, hold video conferences. There's a component called Microsoft Loop where you're able to, it's a collaborative space where you're able to keep track of maybe tasks, or we use something called the Kanban board, which also helps our students stay organized. We also, the use of automated assessments. Again, whether it's through something like Google Classrooms or an LMS, for example, Canvas with the quiz option, or a platform like OnTrack. Um, educational technology plays a huge role when you start talking about the blended learning model. The level of digital literacy in both teachers and students, specifically teachers, because there is the expectation that you will have the ability to teach your students how to use those online resources. And I think it's very important that teachers have those skills, and the districts provide those opportunities for teachers to learn those skills. It's one of my favorite approaches for sure. As an instructional technologist, I'm all for the integration of technology in the classroom when appropriate and when necessary, not just for the sake of using technology in the classroom.